There is a quiet pattern unfolding beneath the surface of modern relationships. A pattern most people feel, but very few can explain. Women, intelligent, self-aware, and fully capable, are increasingly turning away from men their own age and choosing older men instead, not out of weakness, not out of illusion, but out of something far more precise, something psychological, strategic, and deeply rooted in the architecture of human behavior. In this video, you're about to uncover the hidden logic behind this choice, why emotional stability feels more intoxicating than excitement, why certainty outperforms potential, and how the dynamics of power, security, and attraction are being silently rewritten in real time. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand what drives this shift, you will see relationships through a completely different lens, one that reveals who truly holds value, who is still searching for it, and why some people are chosen, while others are left behind. Stay with this until the end, because what you are about to discover is not just information, it is awareness that most people never reach, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. What appears, on the surface, as a simple preference, often hides a far more intricate psychological design. The moment a woman begins to disengage from men her own age, something subtle has already shifted within her perception of reality. It is rarely sudden. It is the result of repeated observations, accumulated impressions, small disappointments that slowly form a pattern. She starts noticing inconsistency, emotional reactions that fluctuate, ambitions that are still forming, identities that are not yet solid. And without announcing it, her mind begins to search for something else, something more stable, more predictable, more complete. This is where the first turning point happens. Attraction quietly detaches from excitement and attaches itself to reliability. And here, something fascinating unfolds. The brain, particularly in emotionally intelligent individuals, is not wired to chase intensity for long periods. Intensity exhausts. It demands energy, attention, constant recalibration. But stability conserves energy. It reduces uncertainty. It allows the mind to relax. And when the mind relaxes, attachment deepens. This is why what many people interpret as less chemistry with older men is, in reality, a different kind of chemistry, one rooted in calm rather than chaos, a chemistry that doesn't spike, but sustains. As this internal recalibration continues, the evaluation process becomes sharper. A younger man may offer passion, spontaneity, even charm, but these traits, when unregulated, often come with unpredictability, and unpredictability, from a psychological perspective, is processed as risk, not necessarily danger, but instability. And the human brain, especially when it begins to think long-term, is designed to minimize risk, not romanticize it. So the attraction shifts again, not toward who feels exciting in the moment, but toward who feels dependable across time. At this stage, many women are no longer asking, "Who do I like?" but rather, "Who can I rely on?" And this single shift in questioning changes everything. Because reliance requires evidence, it requires history, it requires a track record. And this is precisely where age begins to function as a psychological signal, not because age itself is attractive, but because it often correlates with experience, and experience suggests tested resilience. A man who has faced failure, adapted, and rebuilt communicates something without speaking. He understands consequences. And understanding consequences is one of the deepest markers of maturity. Then comes a layer that is rarely discussed, yet incredibly powerful: the nervous system response. A woman's perception of a man is not only shaped by his external qualities, but by what happens internally when she is around him. With younger men, especially those still navigating their identity, interactions can feel stimulating, but also mentally demanding. There is often a need to interpret, to question, to anticipate mood shifts. Over time, this creates subtle fatigue. In contrast, With a grounded, emotionally regulated older man, the interaction feels different. The mind does not race. The body does not brace. There is space. There is clarity. And this internal state becomes associated with him, not because of what he does actively, but because of what he does not disrupt. This distinction may seem small, but it carries enormous weight, because attachment is not built on what excites us momentarily. It is built on what consistently regulates us. And regulation is the foundation of psychological safety. As the dynamic deepens, another realization begins to surface, one that is often misunderstood. The attraction is not only to the man himself, but to the life structure he represents. An older man who has established himself is not offering potential. He is offering reality. His decisions have already materialized into outcomes. His discipline has already translated into stability. His environment reflects his thinking. And stepping into that environment feels fundamentally different from building one from scratch. It is not about dependency. It is about alignment with something that already works. At this point, what many describe as preference is actually a form of strategic selection. It is the mind recognizing that time and energy are finite, and choosing to invest them where the probability of stability is higher. This is where the concept often labeled as hypergamy is frequently misunderstood. When stripped of social judgment, it reveals itself not as manipulation, but as optimization. The desire to choose a partner who embodies competence, foresight, and stability is not irrational. It is deeply aligned with how the human brain evaluates long-term security. Interestingly, modern research supports this shift in attraction patterns. A study published in the journal Evolutionary Psychology highlights that women consistently rate indicators of resource stability, emotional maturity, and social competence as more attractive than raw physical traits when considering long-term partners. What is even more revealing is that these preferences intensify in environments characterized by uncertainty, economic, social, or relational. In other words, the more unpredictable the world becomes, the more the mind seeks certainty and partnership. And certainty is rarely found in unfinished systems. As this awareness strengthens, the power dynamic within the relationship begins to take a new form. From the outside, it may appear that the woman is relinquishing control by choosing a more established man. But internally, something far more nuanced is happening. She is not surrendering power. She is redefining how it is expressed. Instead of competing for dominance, she aligns herself with an already structured system where her role becomes more focused, more intentional, more influential in subtle ways. Influence in this context is no longer about control. It is about positioning. And positioning, when done intelligently, often yields more stability than direct authority. Yet, no decision exists without trade-offs. This path, while offering clarity and structure, may lack certain elements associated with youthful relationships: spontaneity, shared growth phases, parallel discovery. But what replaces them is something many find far more valuable: consistency, predictability, emotional containment, a sense that life is not constantly shifting beneath their feet. And for a mind that has grown tired of navigating instability, this becomes deeply attractive. As the journey continues, one final realization emerges: quiet but undeniable. The attraction was never truly about age. It was never about numbers, appearances, or even status in isolation. It was about something far more fundamental: the search for a state of being where uncertainty is minimized, where emotional energy is preserved, and where the future feels less like a question and more like a direction. And this is where the entire narrative transforms. Because the real difference is not between younger men and older men. It is between those who have mastered themselves and those who are still in the process of doing so. Age simply makes that difference more visible. But the underlying principle remains the same. People are not drawn to time. They are drawn to what time has produced. By the time this becomes clear, the pattern no longer feels mysterious. It feels logical, precise, almost inevitable. And the question quietly shifts once again, not toward why some women choose older men, but toward what qualities, exactly, make any individual feel like a place of certainty in an uncertain world. In the moment you think she disappeared, she has already entered her most dangerous phase of power. The 2026 lone wolf woman didn't run away. She rebuilt herself where no one could see her. Now, it will appear on your screen. The dark psychology of the 2026 lone wolf woman. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.